Let's be real, tech is declining right now. There's no future if you think tech is just about learning to code and then someone paying you crazy money just because you learn to pass coding interviews. For everybody else, the future is different. In this video, I'm going to talk about all of the hard truths that you need to know about the current state of the tech market and where I actually see that this is going. We're going to look at all of the following: overhiring and layoffs in the tech industry. We're going to look at specialists versus generalists and the impact of over-specialization. We're going to look at inefficiencies in large tech companies. We're going to look at the impact of AI on the job market, and we're going to look at the economy and what needs to happen. These categories should cover everything that there is to know about the current state of the market. Overhiring and layoffs in the tech industry. Obviously, companies hired more than necessary in 2020. At that time, it didn't feel like overhiring, because when things are on an exponential trajectory, nobody's rational. But overhiring actually didn't start in 2020. It actually started around 2017, after almost 10 years of an increase in demand for developers. On YouTube, many tech creators learned to code around 2018. This was a time of increasing hiring, so they only saw overhiring that happened in 2020. That's why you only get opinions about 2020. But if you started earlier, the growth was slower, but it was constant, and the industry matured at a better pace. This allowed for a normal career trajectory from junior to mid and senior. Something that is not possible in times of exponential growth, because there is no time for a normal and a healthy career trajectory for developers when everybody's rushing. Now, you need juniors with 5 years experience because everybody's a senior after 2 years. It's a completely distorted field, and you have no idea who's who, and you cannot really trust their credentials. I started my tech career in 2009 after the financial crisis, and I saw growth in this industry every year since then. And I pivoted 3 times in various areas, and each time I pivoted it took years of learning to get better. I also changed because I was excited about learning new things, and I definitely saw potential in the new things that I was learning, and the market was growing, so the changes were positive each time. Now, after the 2020 boom, the tech industry has peaked, and since 2022 it's been on a decline because that exponential growth wasn't sustainable in the first place. Think about how due to that growth the job market became increasingly competitive. Everyone decided that they need to be a developer, and while it's a great job, it's not for everyone. But somehow everybody thought that it was a great idea to get into tech. And I personally blame the tech companies for this because they promoted this idea. They created these kindergarten-like campuses for adults, and they glorified the idea that if you work for them, you're gonna somehow become a 10x developer. They gamified the hiring process, and people started to compete to crack the coding interviews like it was a game. And eventually interviews became a numbers game and a trial and error game. Interviewing wasn't about having the skills that are needed to get a job done. You didn't even know what the job was about. It was just about getting to work in tech. It was just about passing some theoretical and system design questions that you would never be a part of at that stage in your career. So no wonder people didn't even think about what they would be doing in that job. They just wanted to pass the interviews and make money. So these tech companies hired a lot of smart and competitive people, and they then gave them the illusion that they were special. And the whole world followed. Even now, people still think that they are special if they work in tech. And this, in my opinion, is what caused the bubble in the first place. Because prior to this, software engineering wasn't that glorified, and only the people that were truly passionate about it were choosing this industry. We had passionate people, or we had continuous learners that wanted to learn more. And the money wasn't the real motivator, but tech companies created this glorified version, and somehow people just stopped caring about whatever they're passionate about, and they just thought about making money. They stopped thinking about whether they're passionate about programming, and they started thinking how to game the system and get in there. And this impacted the quality of developers. So we find out that many developers lack the necessary knowledge and the necessary fundamentals of computer science principles that are needed to perform the job. And although they are smart people, they don't have depth. They only have a shallow understanding of tools without understanding how to use them in a wider context. So now it's no wonder that we're getting these layoffs. The quality isn't up to standards, and this AI trigger is used to churn them out. Because AI is not going to replace developers, but it's used as the reason to reduce the number of unnecessary developers. So AI is not to blame for this. It's just a convenient excuse that everybody is using. Rather than saying that you overhired and that you overshot, you're blaming a common enemy of the working class, which is AI. Look, it's AI that's replacing you, it's not us. Now, let's look at another reason why we got here, and this is over-specialization. And I can't even remember how many times I heard that if you want to make great money, you need to specialize. And everybody believed it, and they became experts in frameworks and tools, and of course they got jobs with that specialized skill set. But let's be fair, specialization is something that AI is perfectly suited for, because those specialized tasks are the first to be replaced. So suddenly now everybody's calling for the fact that you need to become a generalist. And that's not 100% good either, because you can be a jack of all trades and master of none. But there's a spectrum between specialization and generalization that might be a perfect balance for each of us. And that perfect balance is not reached after 2 years on the job, no matter how much you want it. That's why you need time to become senior. Time that you didn't have if you started your career in this tech hiring bubble. Clearly, we have a large population of developers that have a very narrow skill set, and these are usually the people that were laid off. Many at the beginning of their careers, and of course they cannot have a broad skill set. These are the victims in my opinion, because they got maybe, I don't know, like 1 or 2 years of experience, and suddenly they're not competitive anymore. For them, only time and continuous learning are the real solutions. And this brings me to the developer supply versus developer demand issue. Since we had this exponential growth in tech hiring, I think it's clear that we have too much supply. Too much supply of junior to mid developers that didn't get the chance to develop their skills properly. All these guys wanted to go and work for big tech companies, and they wanted to work in large organizations, and they were never really exposed to what it means to actually build a product and what's needed to do that. They were poorly managed by middle management layers that were also unprepared, so it got to a point in which everybody was pretending that they're doing good work. They focused too much on fake achievements with no business value, and everything worked well while funding was available, but they lacked a practical understanding of what it means to build software. What's good enough, and what else is needed to make money with the software that you're building. Because they all forgot that the companies need to be profitable in order for their jobs to exist. Even now, I bet the majority of you have no idea whether the company that you're working for is profitable and what departments are actually driving that profit. If R&D is not profitable anymore and only the core developers are needed, then it's normal that they're going to drop, I don't know, data science and design departments. So you need to figure out whether your company is profitable and whether you can do anything about it so that you make sure that your job is secure. Otherwise, you can imagine you can be laid off at any given point in time. While funding was free, in terms of interest rates, right? Everything was great. Companies loved R&D. They even got tax back for that. But now it's not just about saving some tax because they're not really making profits because clients are demanding different things. Now, many companies can't even afford these bloated teams, so therefore, again, they're doing these layoffs. So now they're scaling down and they're leaving behind a whole bunch of people that are supposed to somehow find a job in this oversaturated market. And the problem is that they don't have any edge to stand out, right? So they cannot really stand out in this overpopulation of developers that are all looking for jobs. In a market that, by the way, is not really hiring. No matter what the job ads say. The data shows that companies are hiring, but how many final stage interviews and offers are you getting? Because companies are exploring, yes, I understand that they're interviewing, but they're not really committing, so they're wasting your time, they're giving you false hopes, and that leads to job search burnout. And to be honest, I think this will continue for some time because I can't say that I'm too positive about it. Also, let me know how the search is going if you're looking for a job. I'm really curious to understand how the market is from your perspective, because it's not about the data that we read in various articles, it's about how things are on the ground and how you feel that the market is going. And the last thing that I want to cover are the inefficiencies in tech companies. Because apart from overhiring, we have a mismanagement issue. Because middle management is now trapped. Because even if they're making some revenue, they're not providing opportunities for growth for the company. And that growth came off the back of developers and their R&D. And since they didn't take advantage of that capital when it was actually available, and they didn't empower development teams in times of growth, now they don't have them anymore, and there's no real value that they can provide in a time when ways of working and client demands are changing. And I think the next period will show a lot more middle management roles being targeted by layoffs, because to be fair, times have changed. And once that happens, maybe a year from then, we'll see the tech industry coming back and we're gonna regain some good momentum.